a brand like Spinny cannot be built only using advertising. Should I buy a car from you right now? Because I'm going to run that car for the next 3-4 years. Are you going to be there or not? Because you're giving me a warranty. Who is going to fulfill that warranty? Players like Marutis and Mahindras, they were buying their old cars because they have to sell the new ones.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of The Growth Genius. This is where we bring to you growth stories in marketing and business, powered by Infidigit. E-commerce and digital marketing is a very interesting space to be in, and our growth genius for today works in exactly that space. He has worked with brands like Google and Snapdeal, among other reputed brands, and now he heads marketing for an e-commerce platform called Spinny. As we all know, Spinny is a platform for buying and selling used cars. So join me in welcoming Pankaj Soni, VP Marketing at Spinny. Pankaj, welcome to the Growth Genius podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here. Glad that you could take out time for this podcast.
Pleasure is all mine. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Pankaj wanted to understand, how do you define your role at Spinny?
So I head the marketing team for Spinny. Wherever you see the ads of Spinny, you can hold me responsible for that.
So this is predominantly anything and everything under marketing. So is it offline, online, all of it?
Yeah. Offline, online, everything, digital, including the SEO and the direct messages that you get in your mobile phones and devices. All of that put together.
Wonderful. Thanks. Pankaj, your professional life has transitioned across various brands. You have worked across various industries. So can you elaborate, on your journey?
It's been a long journey and multiple brands, multiple roles. But largely I've spent a large amount of time in digital advertising and marketing roles. And, I started off with a government organization, small industrial development bank. Sometimes I wish I would have never moved on. But things, fate had a different plan. And I've been with Bharti Airtel, I've been with Snapdeal.com in their growth years, a long stint there. And InfoEdge, one of the very interesting digital first listed company in India. And I spent some time with Google in the India sales team. And then now I'm with Spinny heading marketing for Spinny. Various roles across digital advertising, across marketing, and a couple of sales stints. That's pretty much the journey. And tell me, what more do you want to know?
Yeah, so I'll go on to the next question. I basically want to understand your perspective on the changing consumer needs, specifically in the automobile industry.
See, we are in a used car retail business. So we buy from the market, we refurbish them, and we sell used cars back to the market. And the decision making is actually quite different when people are choosing between a new or a used car. Typically, the consumer is common, but the decision making, the people involved in decision, the families and friends, and all of that mix, there is a bit of a difference in how people decide a new car vis-a-vis a used car. What I see happening now, and especially with players like Spinny structuring and organizing the overall market, is a renewed trust, or actually a newfound trust in buying a used car. So I think that has been catalyzed by a player like Spinny. If you have came across any of your friends who have tried buying a used car in the past, there was always a doubt on what the meter readings of the car tells us, what the mechanical assessment of the car or the dealer is telling us. So people would usually take along a mechanic with them. Sometimes the mechanic might turn out to be in cahoots with the dealer itself. So it was a very low trust industry. And another thing that has changed the dynamic significantly is how the road infrastructure has improved over time. How people have become a little more serious about maintaining the new cars. All of this brought together, and a player like Spinny catalyzing that, trust on buying a used car has significantly gone up. What we have started to see is a large amount of our car buyers are first-time car buyers. more than 3/4 are like that. A lot of them are Gen Z. So people who are buying their first cars, or people who are buying their cars after their first job, are usually our customers, and that trend has significantly changed. People wouldn't buy their first cars until long into their careers. That is changing. So that age is kind of decreasing with the used car market becoming
Right.
bigger. And I think what else has also changed is there is a larger supply in the market now. The volume of new cars that have been sold in the last 6 to 7 years are now coming back to the market. That's how the cycle is. People try and refresh their cars every 3 to 5 years. And when they are refreshing, they have to sell their old cars. Typically, players like Marutis and Mahindras, they were buying their old cars because they have to sell the new ones. But where would
Yeah.
these cars go? They were going to the rural markets. They were going to, satellite cities. But a lot of people within larger cities are now buying used cars as their first car. And the supply of used cars in the market has also catalyzed this particular change. Of course, there is a financial benefit, there is a financial prudence to buying a used car, because suddenly there is a lot of depreciation the moment car walks out of the showroom, and people want to utilize that. Those are the factors that I can think of are changing the market.
Pretty interesting when you said that the age of the buyer has reduced, which it was not earlier. Maybe also because players like Spinny were not there at that time, and you provide that opportunity for Gen Zs, who have just got a new job, to try out a car within their budget, so to say.
Right. I think what also plays at hand is it's always a mix of things.
Right.
There are a lot of people with disposable income. There is more disposable income, right? Not in the recent 1 year, I'll say, but generally speaking, all of these have to come together for a player like Spinny to really flourish.
Yeah. So there are multiple factors converging for both the demand and supply side, so to say.
Correct.
Great. Thanks for that insight. Obviously, Pankaj, you have been in the marketing space, in the digital space for quite some time now. So, wanted to understand from you, how has advertising changed in the digital age, and what are the benefits and pitfalls of this change?
I've been in advertising for more than 13 years now, and I started with digital marketing. And when I started my career with digital advertising, mobile websites weren't there. 97, 98% of the traffic used to come on the desktops.
Right. Very true.
That was the time when I started. It's not very long ago, but imagine how things have changed dramatically.
Yes.
As of now, 95% of the traffic comes from the mobile device, either through app or through a mobile web. There are very few people using tabs or laptops to really access internet. Internet has become a lot more personal. It was always, but with laptop and with the mobile phone, I think one dramatic change that happens is that the access to internet at any point in time goes up. So you can spend more time on the internet in your personal pace, whether you are walking down the road, where you're sitting in the office, irrespective of that. So that is one dramatic change in how people are consuming internet and how people are consuming media in general, because you can advertise wherever media consumption happens.
Right.
I remember, how television was seen as an ultimate advertising weapon, and digital advertising was only fledgling, a very new concept when I started. I think in the last 3 to 4 years, linear television, as we call it, has completely stagnated. Maybe shrinking. The production teams are really figuring out ways to, how do we create more interest in large format televisions, right? At the same time, a lot of this consumption has moved to connected televisions. There is a personal consumption happening at the same time when a public consumption or a joint consumption is happening on a connected TV. So the net media consumption has gone up dramatically. I think social media is another space which again, very personal. You don't access social media on a television or a large screen. It's very personal, and people are spending a large amount of their personal time there. So these changes in how people are consuming media has given marketers a very tough time in changing their strategies I typically follow a principle in my team that if you have tested something 3 months ago, it's right time to test it again. Things would have changed in the market. I think these are the few dramatic changes that are really challenging. Linear television this has stagnated. So, interestingly, some of the medias like print and out of home have stayed evergreen, right? And they are gaining a little more significance because on a Facebook there are so many ads, or an Instagram or any other digital media, there are so many ads that the attention span is practically negligible. I might remember something that I saw in a newspaper today, but I don't remember what I saw on an Instagram today or day before. Of course, it's a function of who do you want to target. There are a lot of people who might not be reading newspapers at all, but there are a few, and the circulations are holding and still growing gradually. So it's interesting, even right now as we speak, the consumption of some of the medias is stabilizing and gaining back. At the same time, some of the digital medias are losing their effectiveness. This is very recent, is how I'll put it. But of course, this catch-up game between medias would keep on continuing, and I think people who can learn very quickly within a matter of days could really keep on reinventing themselves.
Interesting. But coming to the pros of the new digital age, so to say, how do you find it in terms of reaching out to your consumers?
Spinny is a digital first product. I have been in companies which were digital first, and hence by corollary, we prioritize digital advertising for all our campaigns. And the kind of growth in, I'll say, digital users is happening every day. A lot of Gen Zs are walking into the buying space now, and they are all digital ready there, or they are all having their mobile phones. The kind of growth that's happening, we always prioritize digital media for all our campaigns. It's always digital first, and we build on top of that. So then we start looking into, are we really branding, or are we really driving growth of the platform? So we take those tactical calls. If, for example, we want to prioritize certain sales numbers that we need to do in the next 3 weeks, we would take a different media decision, which would be very digitally heavy because the turnaround is quick. We may throw in medias like radio, which are where the turnaround is very quick, and we'll keep things like maybe print and out of home outside of our purview, mall activations and things like that. But at the same time, the moment we start thinking about positioning a new proposition that would change our sales trajectory over the next 6 to 7 months, maybe even longer term, then we start thinking about we should be present in certain iconic locations out of home consistently, right? Then we start thinking that our digital video campaigns, primarily YouTube, should be at a certain reach and frequency consistently for a longer duration, right? So that's how our decision making changes, and with whatever the objective is in the here and now, our approach changes a little bit.
Interesting. So coming to the next question, and this is more to do with marketing. So marketing has changed a lot over the past few years. How do you build the e-commerce brand ground up, since either digital first like Spinny, or it is completely a digital brand? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think brand has a lot of dependency on what the business is, and I'll explain and elaborate on this. A brand like Spinny cannot be built only using advertising. It's a very service-based brand, and service is a differentiator, right? So every business needs to have a differentiator, and what really differentiates in that particular category defines how do you start building the brand. An internet brand can be in a business where differentiation lies in advertising. For example, I've worked with real estate classifieds platform, and there are a few differentiators there. The kind of content that the classifieds platform has, and the kind of traffic and engagement that that particular platform has. Now, content is a function of how many people do you have on the ground bringing in the content? How good are your crawlers, able to extract content from the market and so on and so forth. And how good are you at things like SEO to bring in traffic so that people stay. And these people, when they start coming back and when they start telling others about a particular classifieds platform, that's when this brand starts getting built. Coming to an e-commerce platform like Spinny and Snapdeal, where I've worked in the past, there the differentiator lies in actually e-commerce. The differentiator lies in pricing, but for something like Spinny, the differentiator also lies in how the servicing is being handled post sales. Because you're buying a car, you're not buying a mobile phone or a shirt. So it is very important that enough and more people have experienced the product in the long term, and they start talking about it. That I bought a car, the car was good. When I raised a complaint, it was addressed immediately. I got a warranty, and these guys are really fulfilling their promise on warranty, right? So there should be enough and more people in a particular market talking about these things, and then you build on that. Once you have identified what people are really hanging on to, what is clicking with the people, then you start advertising, right? Hence, in my head, to really build a brand, business viability and organic traction comes first, and then you pick up from those threads and then you start advertising and start connecting with more and more customers who could be in your segment. And ultimately, brands take a long time to really get positions and get built. So it's always a long-term game. You cannot really build a brand in a year. It's multiple years of servicing, of being in the market, being consistently visible.
Right.
So a lot of customers, both on the supply and demand side that I have interacted with, they keep on asking that, is Spinny going to stay?
Oh,
you have a shop right here in the shopping mall. Is that going to be there? Aap ho na market mein? So that's a genuine question that people have, and that question could only be answered once you are there in that particular space for a while. You might shift your physical address, but it's important to really, be present boldly in front of the customers, that we are here. We are not going anywhere.
Interesting.
So
I mean that is something I would say, in your face kind of a question. Yaar, aap rahoge ya nahi rahoge types.
That's how people think. That's how people decide.
Wow.
Should I buy a car from you right now? Because I am going to run that car for the next 3-4 years. Are you going to be there or not? Because you are giving me a warranty. Who is going to fulfill that warranty?
Correct.
Right. If you're also giving me a buyback promise. So who is going to buy back? Right. So all of that becomes very important for a brand like us, and any brand that's selling anything to customers. B2B brands are different.
Right.
But B2C brands, they need consistent, and that's why it takes time.
Right. Yeah, because the service orientation per se, that has to complete its cycle.
Yeah.
Which actually helps you to create stories as well, in terms of the narrative of staying longer in the market and
Correct.
also servicing the client, so to say. So those narratives then add up and build the brand as well, right?
Right. Advertising, I would say, is a very small portion of brand building.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to know from you, Pankaj, about insights on the role of influencers in marketing a brand.
This is a very interesting question, and I'm also kind of wrapping my head around how influencers are changing perception of people, perception of customers, and the whole marketing game in general. Specifically in case of Spinny, actually in case of OEMs selling a new car, influencers have been active in the market for a long time. Think of an auto car, think of an overdrive. These are all channels and medias that have been in existence for a while.
Right.
Even if through a magazine they are influencing how people decide. Right. So for OEMs, influencers have always been there. When it comes to used car, we face a couple of challenges. First of all, we need to build a case for used cars. Why should you not buy a used car? Buy a used car. Secondly, why buy from us and why not buy from a dealer or a Maruti True Value, and so on and so forth. And we find that this is something that, just a observation over the time here. Maybe influencers haven't really worked out to change things in our favor so far, and we are figuring it out. On the other hand, I see a lot of success stories when it comes to personal care brands. Uh, Even when it comes to some of the financial products or the financial, I would say, brokerage firms that are out there in the market, and even complicated financial products, there are a lot of influencers in the market who are teaching people how to kind of use it and start making changes to the behavior of investment. I don't see that being succeeding in case of Spinny so far.
I see.
Also, I think we are also trying to be an influencer ourselves as a brand. And sometimes brand also confuse that should they be an influencer or should they engage largely with influencers. We are somewhere in the middle of that. We realize that it's a huge ecosystem that is out there. We realize the kind of impact that it could create. We are trying to crack how to really leverage the whole ecosystem. There's a lot of interesting work that Spinny has done, and then we keep on experimenting every day. There's a topic that we discuss every day, maybe twice in our office until we crack it.
Interesting. What you mentioned was maybe fast moving items or low value or low ticket items have a better experience with influencers. Is that probably what comes out from whatever you have experienced? Because like products what Spinny is marketing and providing is a high ticket value, plus it has a high engagement before buying, so to say. So maybe that is something to look at.
I see this as a chicken and egg problem.
Okay.
If there is a working model in the industry, and for influencers that working model is personal care and products like that, there would be more and more influencers fed into the market because there is a working model. And since there are more and more influencers in the market, it takes a critical mass, and more and more advertising happening through influencers. Right? This has happened in case of OEMs and new cars already. So there are a lot of influencers. Look at how bike reviews happen. Look at how, in fact, bike reviews content would be far more than a car review content. But there, the ecosystem already exists. And whenever a new car is being launched, it is always, there is always a sneak peek that a lot of these influencers would get. I'm calling them influencers, but fundamentally they are auto journalists.
Right.
And now they are on YouTube and Metas and everywhere because that's where the reach is. So I think it's also a little bit of that. And in case of financial products, that has happened. There are a lot of influencers in the market because there was a need. Since government is advertising about mutual funds, people wanted to invest in mutual funds. People started teaching about how to invest in mutual funds, and that ecosystem grew. I think for used cars as a proposition, we haven't figured out which ecosystem to really tap into. There are always influencers, maybe in the tangential space. We sometimes use them, we try and leverage, we keep on leveraging. It feels out of place.
Thanks for that input, Pankaj. Coming to the next question, my favorite. So, where do you see organic search in the journey of building and growing an e-commerce brand?
In the here and now, it's very critical for us, and it is going to stay very critical for us. Because a lot of people use search engines to discover websites and pages and so on and so forth. So organic search is a very critical channel for us, and it's cost effective. It doesn't take a lot of people to manage and optimize. It doesn't take a lot of money to kind of grow particular traffic. Of course, there is a peak that you can reach. It's a function of how many people are searching in the market, and then you start growing those search volumes through advertising. Then you solve the category problem. But once you solve the category problem, again there are more people searching, which means you need to be on the top. So it's continuously a critical channel for us for the foreseeable future, at least. Of course, how things like AI and generative AI, how is it changing the consumption pattern of search? We are yet to see, and I think that's a wait and watch.
Got it. Got it. So next question is about AI. So what is your take on AI in marketing?
We see AI as an enabler. That's a general sense in the teams that I've worked and in my network. So AI becomes an enabler. It really enables us to think deeper. We give away certain tasks to automation and think a little more. Marketing teams are usually small, and hence it becomes a great supporting tool for us. Now, this is when I'm talking about how AI enables us to work more and think more. Uh, I see marketing decision making and marketing thinking is way too complex for any AI systems to really kind of start taking up and taking over or helping in for the foreseeable future. I think I see that possibility very, very far away.
Got it.
But definitely there is a lot of help in our work
Right.
which AI enables. On the other hand, which is how advertising changes, right? So one part is how do you operate and execute, but how the market changes and how the advertising changes. I personally am still thinking quite deeply about it, how that is going to change. Definitely, AI has a lot of capability to influence and manipulate decision making, right? Because a lot of media consumption that is happening on search is powered and is passed through and filtered through some of these systems, and there is always an element of how you can change things directionally at scale, and that puts a lot of power in the hands of players like owners of social media platforms, right? So how that is going to change advertising and how that is going to change the way advertising is executed, I think that is to be seen. For now, I see AI as an enabler and a little bit of a gray box from a consumption point of view.
Right. I think time will tell as to where we are heading in this space.
Right, right.
Got it. Got it. Wanted to understand from you, do you use AI in your marketing activities, and if you can share some examples for the audience?
We use a lot of AI for analytics and decision making and some of automations of optimizations. Some of the use cases are already solved. Some of the use cases we are in the process of solving, but we are doing that quite aggressively, and we are using whatever tools are out there, whatever models that we can pick up and absorb. We are trying to solve a lot of analytical problems, a lot of decision making problems from an optimization lens using AI. The second use case that I can think of, which we haven't started working on, but we can think of, is how creative elements can be, analyzed through AI. What worked, what didn't work. How do we kind of make a few tweaks and few changes in creative elements, and what that really resulted in, because the data is quite fine, and there is a lot. So how do we bring it all back in? And the third use case, which we are already kind of solving, is how do we segment, because there is a lot of data lying around. There is advertising information, there is direct messaging information, there is a lot of customer interaction information that is lying with our inside sales teams, the calling teams, and so on and so forth. So all of this information is lying. There is a lot of customer experience information that is lying on the social media platforms where our customer experience team is directly engaging with customers. So how do we bring it in? How do we start using this information to create actionable segments or even to create actions? Now, this is a vague problem that we are trying to kind of attack.
Got it. So that actually is like, converging all the inputs that you get from various platforms to have a more optimized strategy to
Correct.
market again, so to say, or to
Absolutely.
improvise on the marketing plan.
Right. And I think it is interdisciplinary.
Right.
Because it's not only going to help marketing decision making, it also flows into various other business operations. It also flows into customer experience teams and so on and so forth. So
Okay.
and hence it is a difficult problem to crack.
Yeah. So it also has a spillover effect, so to say.
Right.
Interesting. Thanks. Next question is, there has been a rise in demand for pre-owned luxury cars in the recent years. So what's your outlook on this, given that many new brands are launching their luxury variants now?
I think the sheer volume of luxury cars that has been sold in the last uh, 4 to 6 years, means that a lot of used luxury cars would be in the market. And, and that means that used car business would rapidly grow. Actually, it is exponential because every year it adds up to the pool of cars from which you can buy. Uh, so, but it's a very, very complicated business. Luxury cars are very high ticket, high inventory cost and high inventory risk. They are low turnaround. You cannot buy and sell a luxury car in the same turnaround time for which maybe a 5 lakh rupee car or a 6 lakh rupee car. So the turnaround times are quite different significantly. And unless and until you have enough capital to kind of absorb that risk, you cannot build a large business for luxury used cars. We have a significant portion, not really significant, but we have enough luxury cars in our portfolio. We sell enough luxury cars in several markets. We see that as a high growth opportunity. But at the same time, I think a lot of luxury brands have done is that they are themselves trying to organize the used cars luxury market. So they are selling used cars. So Audi has a big presence.
Right.
BMW has a brand, I think. Plus, the dealers who are selling luxury cars, they are quite big by themselves. They have that kind of capital wherewithal to sell a new luxury car. They are doubling up as luxury car sellers, and again they have capital to kind of absorb that inventory risk. So it's a very different kind of market. And I think our foray into luxury market is definitely there. We keep on experimenting with various models to crack it, and I think we would have a significant share of the market pretty soon.
Interesting. The future looks interesting as far as pre-owned luxury cars are concerned.
Right. It's a growing market. It's a huge and a growing market.
Coming to the last two questions of our podcast, any specific growth stories that you would like to share from your career?
A couple of really successful stories that I'm proud of. They're actually quite business-focused stories and events. I personally have felt really proud of kind of revenue contribution that me or the team has been able to kind of provide for the organization as a whole. So that's what I take pride in. I'll talk about something that is much more recent, and then I'll go into a little bit of history. Something very recent within Spinny is how we have been able to take a crack at the supply side of the market for the past year and a half. Spinny typically is not the biggest buyer of used cars in the market among the organized players, and in fact some of the players like True Value, they're buying so many used cars in the market that we are very small in comparison. Now that means that not enough people are coming directly to us to sell their cars, and that's a problem that we took head on, because that creates a direct channel for our procurements, and if we solve that, we can command higher margins. First of all, we saw internally if we are kind of fully prepared, if there is a large volume of interest that comes in, can we really take that up as an operations team? And once the answer was yes, we started ideating that what markets, and when I say markets, these are cities or sub-cities. What markets should we pick up? Where what are those markets where a lot of used cars are being sold, but we are not getting enough share? And if not, then what is this overarching problem statement that people really care about? In retrospect, it is quite straightforward. People want to get the best value of the car, right? And selling, unlike buying a used car, is a low involvement decision. First of all, we need to send out a very clear message, and we need to be visible across the market consistently, so that people remember us at the top of their mind. So the message was quite straightforward. Sell your car for the best price. Very straightforward. And we started taking this message across markets in a very organized way. So we used multimedia across digital and offline. We staggered the media. We planned how to start it. What should happen first, what should happen second, what should happen third, how to creatively use things like transit media which is bus backs and cabs. So a lot of offline thinking went into it. And how do we layer a bunch of digital media where our audience could be on top of this whole campaign? So all of that came together, and we were able to solve for supply across several large cities over the last year and a half. So that's something that I feel quite proud of from the recent experience.
Great.
I think the second thing that comes to my mind is when I worked with InfoEdge in 99 acres specifically, we figured out that a lot of our clients, 99 acres, it's actually the builders and brokers who are paying all the money. A lot of our clients, they are in search for leads, right? And a lot of their lead sources are not classifieds but digital platforms.
Okay.
Which meant that a lot of our visitors are there on 99 acres and also on digital platforms. Only then somebody would be able to extract from both. If our audience is there, why don't we catch them on these digital platforms and extract the leads again? Fundamentally, it's about the yield from the same user. So in a way, we were already doing that as a marketing team, but we brought the client into the center while this decision making, and we started doing this as a client focused solution. In a way, we are advertising on the platform, so the client's project, for example, is present on the platform, but at the same time we take it to the digital media and we extract whatever we can from the digital media also, because our audience is also there.
Right.
And how do we kind of bring it all together, this whole multimedia campaign together, and keep the platform in the center, keep the client in the center, and how do we solve for delivery? So I think this whole exercise resulted in tremendous growth for the platform, and something that I feel I was able to kind of instrumental in solving for.
Super. Great. Thanks for sharing that, Pankaj. Coming to the last question, what are the 4 key takeaways for budding professionals that you would like to share and end up before signing off?
I think first of all, marketing is an ever-changing field, and the changes are happening at a much more faster pace now than they were happening maybe 10 years ago. So the learning curve has to be extremely steep. So it's very important to have a mindset, which is also a growth mindset. That's the general keyword for it. But a mindset to really adapt to these changes in the market and be ready to kind of relearn very quickly. And that's difficult. That's not a very easy process. Because if you have picked up something and you're good at it, you might want to repeat it. It might not work again. So that relearning has to be there,
Right.
which is fundamentally a mindset, and people can train themselves on that particular mindset. So that's important. I think secondly, marketing is no longer a media buying plus communication game, right? See how influencers have changed things. Right? No longer marketers have control over what goes out in the market. No longer marketers can command the narrative. It is the media that is, kind of commanding the narrative now. So no longer a broadcast. It's a network which is outside of marketers' control. Right? That principle means that marketers have to be very cautious, first of all. And not only marketers, but I think brands as a whole, how the customer facing team is talking to the clients. That has a significant impact on how markets might perceive if the customer goes to the social media. So it's not only a marketing or a marketer's control anymore on how things change or what goes viral in the market, but it's an overall business responsibility that everybody who is front-ending with the customer becomes a brand manager in itself. So I think that mindset is very important for the brands to have, and the marketer to understand that how do you wield your influence internally across all customer facing teams.
Got it.
So being always conscious of that. I think these are the two critical things that I can think of right now. There is growth mindset and how being very perceptive of how things have changed.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting, quite insightful in terms of how a marketer can grow. Obviously, one thing is to have a learning mindset and then also have that awareness of being a brand representative themselves, and also ensuring that the communication is passed on to others as well in the company.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I think it goes beyond the individual today.
Correct.
And in the age of influencers, it even goes on to the influencer where you cannot control them at times.
That's correct. I think the role of CMO also has changed. There is no longer a need for CMO typically, because a product manager has to be a marketing guy, a business guy has to be a marketing guy, sales guy has to be a marketing guy. So it's quite distributed now.
Interesting. Thanks a lot coming on the podcast. It's really wonderful to have meaningful conversations with you when we meet, and this became more of a formal platform for us as well. So great.
Same here, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And
Always a pleasure, Pankaj. So, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of yet another episode of The Growth Genius. The inputs that we saw were quite insightful, and we can surely see that e-commerce is today spreading its wings beyond fashion and getting into spaces like automobiles. I would urge you to watch the entire podcast as it is obviously very interesting. Do follow us on various video and audio platforms, the details of which are given in the description below. So, till the next episode of The Growth Genius, keep learning and keep inspiring. Thank you.